Captain Veltar pressed his crystal fingers against the command console as another warning light blinked red. The ship shook again, and he heard the sound of metal breaking somewhere deep in the hull. His crew looked at him with wide, frightened eyes that reflected the emergency lighting like tiny stars. The Harmony's grace was dying. "Report," Veltar said, trying to keep his voice calm. His people were peaceful researchers, not warriors. They studied plants and rocks and peaceful things. They were not prepared for this. First Officer Cassiani floated over to him, her transparent body showing the stress patterns that ran through her like cracks in ice. "Hull breach in Section 7. Life support is failing. The asteroid field damaged our main engines and our communication array." Veltar closed his eyes. They had been so careful. The mission was simple. Find new worlds that might be safe for colonization. Worlds with gentle weather, soft gravity, and no dangerous life forms. They had been mapping this system for 3 days when the asteroid field appeared from nowhere. Their sensors had missed it completely. "How long do we have?" he asked. 6 hours, maybe 7 if we reduce power to non-essential systems. Around the bridge, his crew worked quietly at their stations. The Zephyrians were a delicate people. Their bodies were made of living crystal that could crack under stress. They needed perfect temperature control, clean air, and gentle handling. Space travel was dangerous for them, but the promise of finding new safe worlds made the risk worthwhile. "Sir," called Operator Nimsha from the communication station. "I'm getting something on the emergency channels." Veltar moved over to her station. "Another ship?" "No, sir. It's our own distress signal. I've been broadcasting it for 2 hours, but it's spreading further than it should. Something is boosting our signal. That's impossible. There are no relay stations in this system." Nimsha's body flickered with confusion patterns. "I know, sir, but the signal is definitely being amplified. It's reaching systems we've never even mapped." Veltar felt a chill run through his crystal core. Broadcasting to unknown systems meant contact with unknown species. The Zephyrian Council had strict rules about first contact. They only approached species that had been studied for years, species that were proven to be peaceful and safe. "Can you stop the signal?" "I've tried, sir. Whatever is boosting it has locked onto our frequency. The signal is getting stronger." Another crew member, Engineer Tal Ren, spoke up from his station. "Sir, we have another problem. The life support system just failed in Sections 4 and 5. We're losing oxygen faster than I calculated." Veltar looked around at his crew. They were all young, all brilliant scientists who had volunteered for this mission because they wanted to help their people find new homes. Now they were going to die in empty space because of his decision to explore this system. "How long now?" he asked. 4 hours. "Maybe less." The bridge fell silent except for the sound of failing systems and the gentle hum of the emergency power. Veltar thought about his options. They could try to repair the ship, but they didn't have the tools or the time. They could try to reach the escape pods, but the pods didn't have enough range to reach a safe system. Or they could hope that someone would answer their distress call. "Sir," Nimsha said quietly, "I'm detecting response signals." Veltar's body brightened with hope. "From where?" "Multiple sources. The closest response is coming from a system about 6 light hours away. Can you decode it?" Nimsha worked at her console for several minutes. Her body showed the strain of the effort. "It's very primitive, sir. Basic mathematics and simple symbols. They're asking for our location and the nature of our emergency. Send them our coordinates and tell them we have life support failure." "Sir," Cassani said carefully, "shouldn't we check the databases first? We don't know anything about these species." Veltar looked at the failing life support readings. "We don't have time for a full analysis. Send the message." Nimsha transmitted their response. Within minutes, another signal came back. This one was different. It carried voice data. "Sir, they're trying to establish audio contact. Put it through." The speakers crackled with static, then a voice came through. It was deep and rough, speaking in a language none of them recognized. The voice sounded aggressive. Even through the static and the translation attempts, there was something in that voice that made Veltar's crystal body shiver. "This is Captain Martinez of the UES Ranger," the voice said in broken Zephyrian. The translation software was working, but poorly. "We have received your distress call. We are coming to help you. Stay calm." The connection cut off. Veltar's crew stared at each other. The voice had been so strange, so harsh. No Zephyrian would speak with such force. Nimsha, run a quick scan on that transmission. Try to determine the origin species. She worked for several minutes while the ship continued to shake and fail around them. When she looked up, her body was showing deep fear patterns. Sir, according to the preliminary analysis, that transmission came from a Class 12 world. The bridge went completely silent. Class 12 worlds were the most dangerous classification in their databases. They were worlds with extreme gravity, toxic atmospheres, violent weather, and deadly radiation. No civilized species lived on Class 12 worlds. It was impossible. Run the scan again, Veltar said. I've run it 3 times, sir. The signal definitely originated from a high-gravity world with dangerous atmospheric conditions. The computer estimates surface gravity at nearly 10 times our homeworld standard. Kesani's body was flickering with panic patterns. Sir, what have we done? We've called for help from monsters. They might be peaceful, Talron said, but his voice showed he didn't believe it. Maybe they're just adapted to harsh conditions. Species that survive on Class 12 worlds don't become peaceful, Kesani replied. They become predators. Veltar tried to think clearly. They had perhaps 3 hours of life support left. The unknown species had said they were coming to help. But help from a Class 12 species might be worse than dying in space. Sir, Nimsha called out. I'm getting more responses to our distress call. From where? Multiple systems. But sir, they're all coming from Class 9 worlds or higher. Our signal has reached some very dangerous places. Veltar felt his crystal core growing cold. In trying to save his crew, he might have doomed them to something much worse than a quick death from oxygen loss. How long until the first ship arrives? He asked. The UES Ranger will be here in 2 hours and 37 minutes. Veltar looked around at his terrified crew. They were scientists and explorers, not soldiers. They had no weapons, no defenses, and no experience with hostile species. All they could do was wait and hope that the creatures coming to help them had some concept of mercy. The ship shuddered again, and another system failed. Soon they would meet the beings who lived on worlds that would kill any civilized creature in minutes. Veltar just hoped they would live long enough to regret it. The next transmission came exactly 47 minutes later. This time the translation was much better. Harmony's Grace, this is Captain Martinez again. We have your position locked in. Our computers have been working on your language. Can you understand me better now? Veltar nodded to Nimsha, who opened the channel. Yes, Captain Martinez. We can understand you. Thank you for responding to our distress call. No problem. That's what we do. Can you tell me more about your situation? Our sensors show your ship is badly damaged. Veltar chose his words carefully. We have suffered hull breaches and life support failure. We estimate 2 hours and 43 minutes of breathable atmosphere remaining. Copy that. We'll have you out of there with time to spare. Just sit tight. The channel closed again. Veltar's crew exchanged worried looks. The alien captain sounded so casual, so confident. It was unnerving. Sir, Talron said from his engineering station, I've been analyzing the energy signatures from their ship. It's unusual. How so? They're using some kind of fusion drive, but the power output is enormous. Much higher than anything in our databases. And they're accelerating at rates that would kill most species. Kesani floated over to the sensor station. Let me see the readings. She worked silently for several minutes, then her body began showing alarm patterns. Sir, this doesn't make sense. According to these readings, their ship is pulling acceleration forces that would crush our bodies to powder. Maybe their technology protects them, Veltar suggested. Sir, Nimsha called out, I've been analyzing more data from their transmissions. I think I know what planet they come from. She put the information on the main screen. The image showed a blue and green world that looked beautiful from space, but the data beneath made Veltar's crystal body crack with stress. Gravity, 9.8 meters per second squared. Nimsha read. That's over 9 times our homeworld standard. Atmospheric pressure, 101.3 kilopascals. That would crush our breathing chambers. Oxygen content, 21%. That would be toxic to us. Keep reading, Kesani said grimly. Surface temperature ranges from -40 to +50 degrees Celsius. Weather systems include electrical storms with millions of volts, rotating wind formations with speeds over 300 kilometers per hour, and precipitation that can freeze solid or fall as chunks of ice. The crew stared at the data in horror. What kind of creatures could survive on such a violent world? There's more, Nimsha continued. The planet experiences regular seismic activity, tectonic movements that would shatter our cities, mountain ranges over 8,000 meters high, ocean depths over 11,000 meters with pressure that would implode our strongest vessels. And the radiation? Telrin asked, though he seemed afraid to hear the answer. Direct exposure to stellar radiation. No protective atmospheric filtering. The creatures living there receive radiation doses that would sterilize most worlds. Veltar felt sick. They had called for help from beings that lived on a world that was essentially a natural disaster in the shape of a planet. Sir, Kesani said quietly, I've been cross-referencing the data with our xenobiology databases. I think I know what these creatures are. She brought up a theoretical profile that the Zephyrian Science Council had created years ago. It was labeled Deathworld Apex Predator Theoretical Model. According to our projections, any species that evolved on a high-gravity, high-radiation world with extreme weather would have to develop certain characteristics to survive. The profile was terrifying. Dense bone structure to handle extreme gravity, redundant organ systems to survive damage, aggressive territorial behavior to compete for resources, high pain tolerance, rapid healing abilities, and most frightening of all, pack hunting instincts and tool-making intelligence. These are the monsters that answered our distress call, Kesani said. Before Veltar could respond, another transmission came through. Harmony's Grace, this is Martinez. We're running some calculations on your atmospheric needs. Our medical officer wants to know about your physiology so we can prepare appropriate life support for the rescue. Veltar activated the transmitter with a shaking hand. Captain Martinez, we are crystalline beings. We require very specific atmospheric conditions. Low pressure, filtered air, stable temperature. Crystalline, like living glass? Something like that, yes. There was a pause. Then, okay, that's new. Don't worry, we'll figure something out. We've rescued stranger things than living glass people. The casualness in the captain's voice was somehow more frightening than if she had been threatening them. Sir, Talrin whispered, did she just say they've rescued stranger things than us? What else is out there? Nimsha wondered. Another crew member, biologist Srendal, had been quietly working at his station. Now he looked up with pure terror in his crystalline features. Sir, I've been analyzing the linguistic patterns in their transmissions. I found references to their home world in their language database. And they call it Earth, but they also have other names for it. Sol 3. Terra. The blue planet. But, sir, they also call it home. What's terrifying about that? Sir, they're proud of it. Their language patterns show affection when they speak of their world. They don't see it as a dangerous place to be escaped from. They see it as something to be protected and loved. The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. These creatures didn't just survive on a death world. They loved it. They had evolved not just to live in hell, but to call it home. There's something else, Srendal continued. I found recreational activities in their database. Things they do for fun, such as, they deliberately expose themselves to even more danger. They climb the highest mountains on their world for enjoyment. They dive to the deepest parts of their oceans. They jump from aircraft with only fabric wings to slow their fall. They race vehicles at lethal speeds. They fight each other in organized combat sports. Kesani's body was now showing full panic patterns. They seek out additional danger for recreation. And, sir, Srendal added, they consume toxins voluntarily. Ethanol, caffeine, capsaicin. Substances that would kill most species they drink and eat for pleasure. Veltar tried to process this information. They had called for help from creatures that lived on a world that would kill his people in minutes. And these creatures were so bored by their hellish existence that they invented new ways to put themselves in danger. Captain, Nimsha said urgently, I'm detecting another ship approaching. It's not human. Who is it? I think it's a hegemony patrol vessel. They must have intercepted our distress call too. Veltar's core went cold. The hegemony was a military alliance that conquered weak species and enslaved them. If they had detected the distress call, they would come not to rescue but to capture. Sir, Talrin said, the human ship will arrive in 93 minutes. The hegemony ship will arrive in approximately 2 hours and 15 minutes. Veltar looked around at his crew. They were trapped between death monsters and slavers. And the monsters were coming first. He just hoped the humans would kill them quickly. The UES Ranger appeared without warning. One moment their sensors showed empty space. The next moment there was a massive ship drifting alongside them. It was huge, dark, and covered in what looked like weapons. How did they move so quietly? Talrin whispered. Harmony's Grace, this is Captain Martinez. We're alongside your vessel now. Prepare for boarding. Veltar activated the transmitter with a trembling hand. Captain Martinez, we must warn you. Our ship's atmosphere may be toxic to your species. A sound came through the speakers that took several seconds for Veltar to recognize. The human was laughing. Don't worry about us. We'll be fine. Just make sure your people stay clear of the docking area. We're coming through the hull. Through the hull? Kasani gasped. They're going to cut through our ship? The sound started immediately. A terrible shrieking noise of metal being torn apart. The Zephyrians felt their ship shake as something powerful cut through the outer hull like it was paper. Hull breach in docking bay 7, Talron reported, his voice shaking. But sir, they're sealing it behind them as they cut. They're creating an airlock. How is that possible? I don't know, sir. The energy readings are off the scale. The cutting stopped. Then came the sound of heavy footsteps. Not the gentle floating movement of Zephyrians, but the hard, rhythmic pounding of creatures that walked on high-gravity worlds. Harmony's Grace, this is Martinez. We're aboard your ship, sending a team to your bridge now. Veltar and his crew huddled together at the center of the bridge. They had nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. All they could do was wait for the monsters to arrive. The bridge doors opened. The first human through the door was enormous. It stood nearly twice the height of a Zephyrian, and was covered in some kind of protective suit that made it look even larger. Its face was hidden behind a transparent screen, but Veltar could see features underneath that looked hard and predatory. Behind the first human came others. All of them massive, all of them moving with the confident stride of apex predators. They carried tools and devices that could have been weapons or equipment. With creatures like these, there might not be a difference. The lead human pulled off its helmet, and Veltar got his first clear look at a Deathworld predator. The human was female, with dark skin marked by thin white lines that could only be scars. Her hair was short and practical. Her eyes were small and focused, constantly moving as they scanned the bridge. When she opened her mouth to speak, Veltar saw the bone-white teeth that marked her as a carnivore. Captain Veltar, she said. Her voice was deep and strong, the voice of something that had never known fear. Yes, Veltar managed. I'm Captain Elena Martinez. Sorry about the dramatic entrance, but your docking systems weren't compatible with ours. She looked around the bridge with those predator eyes. Nice ship. Very elegant design. One of her crew members, a male with pale skin and strange markings on his arms, approached the engineering station. Talron backed away from him in terror. Don't worry, Martinez said, noticing the fear. That's just Chief Engineer Rodriguez. He's here to fix your life support. Rodriguez began examining the damaged systems. He moved with casual efficiency, his hands dancing over controls that Talron had spent years learning to operate. Captain, Rodriguez called out, this is some beautiful engineering, very sophisticated, but whoever designed it never expected this kind of damage. Can you fix it? Give me 20 minutes. 20 minutes? Talron had estimated it would take days to repair the life support, and that was with proper parts and tools. Captain Martinez, Veltar said carefully, we are grateful for your assistance, but we must warn you. We have detected another ship approaching. They may be hostile. Martinez's face changed. The casual friendliness disappeared, replaced by something cold and calculating. How hostile are we talking? The hegemony. They conquer and enslave weaker species. Ah. Martinez nodded as if this was a minor inconvenience. How long until they arrive? Approximately 40 minutes. Plenty of time. Rodriguez, how's that repair coming? Almost done, Captain. Their atmospheric recycling system just needed a few modifications. Amazing what you can do with a quantum welder and some spare parts. Veltar watched in amazement as the human engineer performed repairs that should have been impossible. He was working without protective gear in an atmosphere that should have been toxic to him. He was handling tools that operated at temperatures that should have burned him, and he was doing it all while casually talking to his crewmates. Sir, one of the other humans said, I'm reading some interesting energy signatures from these crystal beings. They're not just biological. They're some kind of living semiconductor. That's fascinating, Dr. Chen, Martinez replied, but let's focus on keeping them alive first. We can study them later if they want. Dr. Chen was smaller than the others, with features that looked different from Martinez and Rodriguez. Her skin was lighter, her eyes shaped differently, but she moved with the same confident predator grace. Captain, she said, I've been analyzing their physiology. They're incredibly delicate. The gravity on our ship would kill them in minutes. Then we'll have to transport them in their own ship. Can we tow it? Easy, Rodriguez called out. I'm already installing towing hardpoints. These people build things to last, Veltar found his voice. You're actually trying to save us? Martinez looked at him with surprise. Of course. That's why we're here. But we're so different, so weak compared to you, so? You're in trouble and you called for help. That's all we need to know. Another human entered the bridge. This one was even larger than the others, with skin so dark it was almost black and muscles that showed clearly through his protective suit. Captain, he said in a voice like distant thunder, we've got the ship secured. Towing cables are attached. We can pull them out of here whenever you're ready. Good work, Sergeant Williams. How's our timeline? Hegemony ship will be here in 28 minutes. Cutting it close. Rodriguez. Life support is online and stable, Captain. These people should be fine now. Veltar checked his own instruments. The readings were perfect. Better than perfect. The human engineer had somehow improved their systems while repairing them. How did you do that so quickly? Talrin asked Rodriguez. The human grinned, showing those predator teeth. Easy, your people over-engineer everything. Very safe, very reliable, but not very efficient. I just streamlined a few processes. But the quantum resonance calculations alone should have taken hours. I didn't do any calculations. I just tried things until they worked. Talrin's crystal body flickered with confusion. That should be impossible. Should be, yeah. But it worked, so who cares? Martinez activated her communication device. Ranger to all teams. Prepare for departure. We've got company coming. Captain Martinez, Veltar said. The hegemony ships are heavily armed. They have weapons that can destroy both our vessels. I'm sure they do, Martinez replied calmly. You don't understand. They're not just raiders. They're a military alliance with advanced technology and superior numbers. Martinez's predator smile grew wider. Superior numbers, you say? How many ships? Our sensors detect at least one heavy cruiser, possibly more. Just one cruiser? Martinez sounded almost disappointed. Williams, did you hear that? Copy, Captain. Just one cruiser. Well, that's hardly sporting. All right, people, let's get our new friends out of here before the bad guys show up. Veltar couldn't understand the humans' casual attitude toward mortal danger. They acted like they were discussing the weather, not facing a military vessel that could destroy them. Captain, Dr. Chen said, I'm picking up additional signals. Looks like the hegemony ship brought friends. How many friends? 3 escort vessels and a battle carrier. Now Martinez looked pleased. That's more like it. All right, people. Looks like we get to have some fun today. Veltar felt his crystal core crack with terror. The humans were talking about fighting a hegemony battle group like it was entertainment. What kind of monsters had he called for help? As the UES Ranger towed the Harmony's Grace away from the asteroid field, Captain Martinez invited Veltar and his senior officers to the human ship's bridge. They traveled in sealed transport pods that Rodriguez had built in 15 minutes from spare parts. The human bridge was a shock to Veltar's senses. Everything was built for creatures twice their size and 10 times their strength. The chairs were massive, the controls were heavy and crude, and the screens showed tactical displays that would give any peaceful species nightmares. Welcome to the Ranger, Martinez said as they entered. Sorry about the cramped conditions. We weren't really designed for passengers. Cramped? The bridge was enormous. Each human workstation was the size of a small Zephyrian room. Captain Martinez, Veltar said carefully, we are very grateful for your assistance, but perhaps we should discuss what will happen when the hegemony ships arrive. What do you mean? We should surrender immediately. The hegemony doesn't usually execute prisoners, and if we cooperate, you might survive as slaves. The entire human bridge crew turned to stare at him. Then they started making that sound again, laughing. You want us to surrender? Martinez asked. It's the logical choice. The hegemony has superior numbers and firepower. Talrin, Dr. Chen said from her station. Could you show Captain Martinez the hegemony tactical data? Talrin shared the information from their databases. Ship specifications, weapon systems, battle records. The hegemony was one of the most powerful military forces in known space. Martinez studied the data for about 30 seconds. Plasma cannons, particle beams, quantum torpedoes, decent energy shielding, ablative armor. She looked up. This is their best technology? Yes, Veltar said. Each of those ships could destroy 100 vessels like ours. But we're not like you. Rodriguez said from the engineering station. No offense, how are you different? Show them, Martinez said. Rodriguez brought up technical specifications for the UES Ranger. Feltar stared at the numbers in disbelief. These readings can't be correct. What's wrong with them? Dr. Chen asked. Your weapon systems show energy outputs that would require the power of a small star. That's about right, Martinez confirmed. But that's impossible. No ship can generate that much power. We don't generate it, Williams said from the tactical station. We carry it. What do you mean? Fusion warheads, Martinez explained. We use them for mining, construction, emergency power, and when people get unfriendly. Kasani's crystal body was flickering with terror patterns. You carry nuclear weapons on your ship? Couple hundred of them, Rodriguez said casually. Want to see the storage bay? You use nuclear weapons for mining? Sure. Very efficient for breaking up asteroids. Much faster than conventional explosives. Feltar tried to process this information. The humans carried hundreds of weapons that could sterilize planets, and they used them for industrial purposes. Captain, Williams called out. Hegemony Battle Group is dropping out of hyperspace. 4 ships as expected. Put them on screen. The main display showed 4 massive warships emerging from hyperspace. They were sleek, powerful vessels designed for conquest. Each one bristled with weapon systems that could reduce a planet to ash. Impressive, Martinez said. Very pretty ships. A communication signal came through from the lead Hegemony vessel. Unknown ship. This is Battle Commander Krex of the Hegemony 3rd Fleet. You will surrender the refugee vessel and prepare to be boarded. Martinez activated the transmitter. This is Captain Martinez of the UES Ranger. The refugees are under our protection. You are ordered to withdraw from this system immediately. The channel went silent for several seconds. Then Krex's voice returned, sounding confused. You are outnumbered 4-1. Your single vessel cannot stand against a Hegemony battle group. Single vessel? Martinez looked around her bridge with amusement. Williams, how many ships do we have in this system? Williams checked his sensors. Just us, Captain. I guess he's right. We are outnumbered. She activated the transmitter again. Commander Krex, you are correct. You have 4 ships and we have 1, but you're still outgunned. That is impossible. Would you like a demonstration? Before Krex could respond, Martinez nodded to Williams. Sergeant, please show our new friends what a standard warning shot looks like. Williams pressed several controls. One of the Ranger's weapon ports opened and something small shot out toward empty space about halfway between the 2 fleets. The explosion was visible from several star systems away. What was that? Feltar gasped. 5-megaton fusion warhead, Martinez said. That's our smallest one. On the communication channel, they could hear confused shouting from the Hegemony ships. Commander Krex, Martinez said calmly. That was a warning shot. The next one will be aimed at your ships. You have 30 seconds to begin withdrawing from this system. You're bluffing, Krex replied, but his voice sounded uncertain. Williams, please prepare a full spread of our largest warheads. Target their command ship. With pleasure, Captain. Loading 600 megaton fusion torpedoes. On the tactical display, Feltar could see the Hegemony ship's sensors going crazy as they detected the massive energy signatures of the human weapons. This is impossible, Krex transmitted. No civilized species would build weapons of such destructive power. You're right, Martinez replied. We're not very civilized. Rodriguez looked up from his station. Captain, their shields wouldn't even slow down our torpedoes. Those ships would be vaporized, I know. That's why I'm giving them a chance to leave. Dr. Chen was monitoring the Hegemony communications. Captain, they're in full panic. Their commanders are screaming at each other. They've never encountered anything like our firepower. 15 seconds, Commander Krex, Martinez announced. Wait. Krex's voice was desperate now. What species are you? What world do you come from? We're humans. From Earth. There was a long pause. Then Earth? The death world in the Sol system. That's the one. Another pause. We withdraw. Hegemony forces are withdrawing from this system. On the tactical display, Veltar watched in amazement as the 4 massive warships turned and fled back into hyperspace. That's it? He asked, and they're just leaving? Seems that way, Martinez said. But they had superior numbers. Numbers don't matter much when the other guy can turn your ships into plasma from 50 light seconds away. Veltar looked around the human bridge. These creatures had just faced down a Hegemony battle group, without firing a shot in anger. They had weapons that could destroy fleets, and they used them for mining. They lived on a world that would kill any sane species, and they called it home. Captain Martinez, he said slowly. What exactly are humans? Martinez thought about it for a moment. We're just people trying to get by. We help our friends and protect what matters to us. But you're so powerful. Not really. We just come from a tough neighborhood. Rodriguez laughed. That's one way to put it. The thing is, Dr. Chen added, most of us don't think we're anything special. This is just normal life for humans. Normal? Sure. We grow up on Earth, we learn to handle dangerous situations, we develop technology to solve problems. It's all very ordinary from our perspective. Veltar realized that the humans genuinely didn't understand how terrifying they were. To them, carrying nuclear weapons and living on Deathworlds was just everyday life. Captain, Williams reported, the Harmony's grace is secure and their life support is stable. We can escort them to any system they choose. Excellent. Captain Veltar, where would you like to go? Veltar thought about it. His original mission was to find safe worlds for colonization. But now he had a different mission. Captain Martinez, would it be possible to visit your home world? To meet with your leaders? You want to go to Earth? We need to establish diplomatic relations immediately. Martinez smiled. I'm sure that can be arranged. But why the rush? Veltar looked at his crew, then back at the humans who had saved them from certain death. Because if there are more humans out there, the galaxy needs to know about it. Not as a threat to be feared, but as allies to be treasured. Martinez nodded approvingly. I like the way you think, Captain. As the UES Ranger set course for Earth, Veltar began composing his report to the Zephyrian Council. He would recommend immediate diplomatic contact with humanity. Not because humans were dangerous, though they certainly were, but because they were something far more valuable. They were friends worth having. The journey to Earth took 3 days. During that time, Veltar and his crew learned things about humans that made them question everything they thought they knew about intelligent life. On the first day, Dr. Chen showed them the human medical bay. Veltar watched in horror as she demonstrated their healing technology on a crew member who had suffered what humans called a minor injury, a cut that went completely through his hand. This will heal completely in about 6 hours. Dr. Chen explained as she sealed the wound with some kind of molecular adhesive. 6 hours? Kasani asked. That injury would take our people months to repair if it could be repaired at all. Really? That's unfortunate. Though I suppose your crystal physiology makes healing more complicated. What Dr. Chen didn't mention was that humans routinely healed from injuries that would be fatal to most species. Broken bones, torn muscles, damaged organs. All things that human bodies repaired as a matter of course. On the second day, Rodriguez gave them a tour of the engineering section. Veltar watched the human engineer perform maintenance tasks that would require specialized equipment and teams of experts on any civilized world. Don't you need safety protocols? Talrin asked as Rodriguez casually worked on a fusion reactor that was still running. What for? It's just a standard maintenance check. But if something goes wrong, then I'll fix it. That's what engineers do. Rodriguez was working with his bare hands on technology that operated at temperatures that would melt most metals. He was breathing air that was full of radiation that would sterilize most worlds. And he was treating it all like a routine day at work. That evening, the humans invited the Zephyrians to dinner. Veltar was curious about human food, but what he discovered terrified him. This is coffee, Martinez said, offering him a cup of dark liquid, very popular among humans. Veltar analyzed the chemical composition and nearly dropped the cup. This contains caffeine concentrations that would be lethal to most species. Really? We just use it to stay awake. The human food was equally shocking. They consumed capsaicin compounds that would be used as chemical weapons on other worlds. They ate fermented materials that were technically rotting. They drank ethanol solutions that would be classified as industrial solvents. How do you survive eating these toxins? Surendal asked. Toxins? Williams looked confused. This is just normal food. But the chemical analysis shows... Oh, you mean the spicy stuff? Yeah, some humans like food that burns a little, adds flavor. The humans were consuming deadly poisons for entertainment. On the third day, they reached Earth. Veltar's first view of the human homeworld from space was breathtaking. It was beautiful. Blue oceans, white clouds, green and brown continents. It looked peaceful and welcoming. Then Martinez showed him the real-time planetary data. Currently, we've got a Category 5 hurricane in the Atlantic Ocean, she said, pointing to a massive spiral of clouds. That's winds over 250 kilometers per hour. And there's a volcanic eruption in Indonesia that's shooting ash 15 kilometers into the atmosphere. Are those natural disasters? Those? No, that's just Tuesday on Earth. Natural disasters are the big stuff. Asteroid impacts, supervolcanic eruptions, ice ages. The regular weather is just weather. As they descended through the atmosphere, Veltar saw cities that stretched for hundreds of kilometers. Billions of humans living and working on a world that would kill any civilized species in minutes. How many humans are there? He asked. On Earth? About 8.5 billion. 8 billion? Veltar's crystal structure cracked with shock. That's more than most star systems. Yeah, we're pretty crowded. That's why we're expanding into space. The implications hit Veltar like a physical blow. 8 billion humans. 8 billion apex predators with fusion weapons and the casual attitude toward danger that he had witnessed. The Ranger landed at a spaceport in a place called Geneva. As they disembarked, Veltar was struck by the overwhelming sensory assault of Earth. The gravity was crushing. The air was thick and humid. The sounds were constant. Millions of humans going about their daily lives, flying vehicles overhead, construction projects in the distance, and everywhere humans, walking around in the open air, breathing the toxic atmosphere, living their lives under direct stellar radiation. Welcome to Earth, Martinez said. The diplomatic corps is waiting to meet you. The meeting with Earth's diplomatic representatives was held in a building that humans called the United Nations. Veltar found himself sitting across from Ambassador Sarah Chen, Dr. Chen's sister, as it turned out, trying to explain why his people wanted to establish relations with humanity. We believe that humans could be valuable allies, Veltar said carefully. That's very kind of you, Ambassador Chen replied. But we're curious why you're so interested in diplomatic relations. Most species we've encountered have been less enthusiastic about contact. Veltar thought about how to explain without sounding insulting. Your people have certain qualities that would make them excellent allies, such as, you're very good at solving problems. Ambassador Chen smiled. That's diplomatic of you. We've heard from other species that we're terrifying Deathworld monsters who should be avoided at all costs. Well, that too, the ambassador laughed. At least you're honest. The truth is, we'd like to establish good relations with peaceful species like yours. Earth is getting crowded and we're looking for places to expand. But we don't want to step on anyone's toes. Expand. Colony worlds. New systems to explore and settle. We're hoping to find uninhabited worlds that are suitable for human habitation. Veltar thought about the worlds in the Zephyrian databases. Most of them were classified as uninhabitable death worlds that no sane species would ever consider colonizing. Ambassador Chen, what kind of worlds do humans consider suitable for habitation? Oh, the usual. Breathable atmosphere, reasonable gravity, stable climate. We're not too picky. She showed him a list of world classifications that humans considered acceptable. Veltar stared in horror. They were all Class 8 death worlds or higher. Worlds with crushing gravity, toxic atmospheres, extreme weather, and deadly radiation. These are all uninhabited, he said. Perfect. We don't want to displace anyone. They're uninhabited because they're incredibly dangerous. How dangerous can they be? We survived Earth. Veltar realized that humans had no concept of what other species considered dangerous. To them, worlds that would kill most civilized beings were just fixer-uppers. Ambassador, would you be interested in establishing trade relations with other species? Absolutely. What kind of trade? Protection services. Ambassador Chen raised an eyebrow. You want to hire us as mercenaries? Not exactly. More like insurance. There are many peaceful species in the galaxy who face threats from aggressive civilizations. If they knew that they were under human protection, the aggressive civilizations would leave them alone. Exactly. Ambassador Chen thought about it. That could work. We're always looking for ways to make peaceful contact with other species. And if we can help protect smaller civilizations from bullies, that seems like a good thing. Over the next several hours, they worked out the framework for what would become known as the Terran Protection Compact. Any peaceful species could request human protection in exchange for trade agreements, cultural exchange, or simply friendship. As the meeting concluded, Ambassador Chen walked Veltar to the observation deck of the UN building. They looked out over the sprawling city of Geneva, with its millions of humans going about their daily lives. "Can I ask you something, Captain Veltar?" "Of course." "When you first called for help, did you ever imagine it would lead to this?" Veltar thought about the dying ship, the desperate distress call, the terror his crew had felt when they realized what kind of beings had answered. "No," he said. "We thought we were calling monsters. And now? Now I know we were right. You are monsters." He paused. "But you're our monsters." Ambassador Chen smiled. "I think that's the beginning of a beautiful friendship." 6 months later, the first human protection fleet was deployed to defend a small colony of peaceful herbivores from raiders. The raiders took one look at the human ships and decided to find a different line of work. The hegemony, upon learning that multiple species were now under human protection, quietly revised their expansion plans to avoid any systems with human presence. And throughout the galaxy, peaceful species began to sleep a little better at night, knowing that somewhere out there, the friendly monsters from Earth were watching over them. Veltar's final report to the Zephyrian Council was remarkably brief. Diplomatic contact with humanity. Highly recommended. They are everything we feared and more than we dared hope. Request immediate establishment of formal alliance. The Council approved the alliance unanimously. After all, when you accidentally call Deathworlders for help and they actually help you, the smart thing to do is make sure they stay on your side. Thank you for watching and comment for next part.